Former WorldCom CEO Bernie Ebbers today was sentenced to 25 years in prison. The 63-year-old entrepreneur wept as the judge handed down the toughest sentence yet in the string of recent corporate scandals in this country.
My name is Walt Pavlo, and in January of 2001, I received a 41-month sentence to federal prison for money laundering, wire fraud, and a obstruction of justice charge in association with activities that took place while I worked at MCI WorldCom. The pressure was to consistently grow at MCI. And by growth, I mean in revenue and in the collections of that revenue. Any good business wants to be able to not only grow, but to be able to be paid for the services they provide. MCI in that way is no different.
But what was different was the tone at the top. Bernie Ebbers, convicted of helping engineer the MCI WorldCom fraud, told underlings that a proposed code of ethics was, quote, a colossal waste of time. People in the company got the message. And that message was to find creative ways to make the numbers.
At MCI, we consistently knew what our plan or projections were for the upcoming quarter, 6 months, and year. We knew exactly the number, what the numbers had to be to meet those projections. The importance of it to me personally was that was how I was compensated. Having a salary of approximately $75,000 at the time over $1 billion portfolio, I'm talking as when I was senior manager, is that my compensation was driven by stock options, which I was given by the thousands each year for my performance.
3 factors can play a major role in fraud by executives and employees. First, the degree to which preoccupation with meeting analysts' expectations permeates the organization's climate. Second, the compensation and incentive plans that may encourage unacceptable, unethical, and illegal conduct. And finally, the degree of fear and pressure associated with meeting numerical goals and targets.
So Walt and his superiors would meet often to find ways to manipulate the records.
In meetings with superiors and peers, we discussed different ways in which we might be able to manipulate the records. And so it was an evolutionary sort of process more than, hey, Walt, why don't you go change the records to do this? We learned as we went. We learned as we needed to learn as well, which is very important.
What happened was Walt learned ways to help conceal uncollectible debt, which boosted the company's assets and profits. Dr. Stephen Salbu is an expert in organizational behavior and ethics. He says that although formalized codes of ethics are important, they have limitations.
One limitation is that, ironically, a code of ethics can actually work counterproductively. It's possible that a code of ethics will leave employees and executives as well believing that as long as you comply with the basics of this, you no longer have to engage in any moral analysis, that your job is done.
When it comes to looking at a leadership role or an example, my employees witnessed my direction to manipulate books, and I witnessed my bosses, telling me to do certain things with manipulation. So I was an influence on them, there's no doubt about it. And my actions directly influenced, most likely, what they did on their own.
When management doesn't lead with integrity, research suggests that there are 5 main reasons that employees fail to report unethical conduct. They don't believe corrective action will be taken. They don't trust that their reports will be kept confidential. They fear retaliation from supervisors or managers. They fear retaliation from coworkers, and they don't know whom to contact.
There are 3 types of workplace loyalty. Personal loyalty is the lowest level. It consists of the employee accepting and complying with the directives of a particular superior. Institutional loyalty is the next level, and it's organizational in nature, consisting of accepting and complying with the mission of the organization. Integrated loyalty is the highest and most virtuous level. It's idealistic in nature and constitutes genuine concern by each worker for the organization. It transcends the previous loyalties by honoring the ideals of accountability, fairness, honesty, and goodwill. Organizations should strive for this level. Walt, however, was loyal only to himself.
Second thing that leaders in an organization can do is to state clearly and convincingly what their ethical requirements are, what their values are for the organization.
The determinants of ethical behavior in an organization are behavior of superiors, behavior of peers, ethical practices in the industry, society's moral climate, and the existence of a formal organizational policy.
The prevention part is what every company needs to look at, and that is how well do you know your employees and what they're doing, and what are you teaching them? You know, what is it that you're portraying to the people that work for you? And in fraud of this size, you're not talking about fudging an expense report or a little extra here or a little extra there. You're talking about an overall culture that now you've created.
And the culture begins with the board and with management that talks about the importance of ethics, keeps employees informed, keeps promises, and models ethical behavior. Walt Pavlov said that other employees modeled his dishonesty.
My actions definitely trickled down.
The third thing that's important is to create a path for people who are witnessing misdeeds within the organization to be able to report those misdeeds, knowing that there will be no retaliation and knowing that this is something that is valued by the company and protects everybody within the company.
A positive work environment also helps deter fraud. Management should ensure recognition and reward systems that are in tandem with goals and results. Equal employment opportunities, team-oriented, collaborative decision-making policies, and professionally administered compensation and training programs.
Dr. Salbu says the fourth and final requirement of organizational ethics is to reward integrity.
It's important that the company not just be focused on short-term profits. And if the company is only concerned with quarterly earnings, that will be communicated to the employees, and the employees will act accordingly. They'll behave accordingly. If you see ethical behavior, particularly ethical behavior that was difficult, was a tough choice for an employee, it needs to be rewarded. People do what they're rewarded to do within organizations.
The power or the influence of a leader is something that goes beyond textbooks. It goes beyond rules that you have within an organization.
One thing that most employees are remarkably good at is detecting over time in an organization who really has character and integrity and leads with honor and who doesn't.
There are at least 7 steps business leaders can take to ensure that messages are clear about individual and corporate responsibility and accountability. Set an ethical tone at the top. Promote effective internal controls. Establish a whistleblower policy. Prevent reprisals. Provide ethics and fraud training for staff. Implement a confidential hotline. And create a culture of doing the right thing.